Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 39. The stockings are lining the mantle with care. The cookies and milk are laid out for you-know-who, and it is time for a holiday-themed deep dive. This episode is being recorded on December 24th, one day before it airs on Christmas Day, which just makes me so darn excited. Sam has already begun his deliveries, so you just have me, Mrs. Claus, and your usual host tonight. Ooh, here they come right now. Well, you certainly do not look like Snoggle or Nicholas. Merry Christmas, young man. Are those X-ray glasses?
Why, yes, ma'am, they are. And thank you. Yeah, Mrs. Claus, you may want to go check on the man in red, if you know what I mean.
Why would makes you say that?
Oh, I see. You haven't seen the A cover for Hyde Street number 3, have you? Old Kringle was very naughty this year. You could say he's seen better days.
Santa? Oh no! What have they done to you, and who is this demonic Cub Scout?
What do you think got into her?
I don't know. She really seemed excited about being a guest on the show.
Mrs. Claus is gone now, so you two can have a real guest on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast. You jokers have had Hitch, Race, Frank, Manapul, Anderson, Zoot, Lee, and Johns on this program. Now it's time for the spotlight on Frederick Xavier Ray from Hyde Street.
Okay, 1 second. This isn't Hyde Street, though.
So what?
So your powers don't work here.
Well, it's not like you're going to make me leave. The fans want this. Come on, people. Don't worry, honey. I've dealt with this before. Hey, Joe. Junkyard Joe. We need you to come take out the trash again.
Hey, Joe. Merry Christmas.
Great to see you, Joe. Can you please get rid of this knucklehead for us? You really think a robot can stop a being like me? Hey, let go of me. This is no way to treat an up-and-coming comic book icon. We do videos together, Nick.
This has been an interesting day.
I told you, it's the Christmas season and it brings out some crazy stuff in everybody, my dear. What is going on? It's episode 39, and we are recording this, like Mrs. Claus said, on Christmas Eve. Because that's how much we're excited about Ghost Machine. Oh, that was kind of terrifying, Mr. X-Ray. You know, we almost made it to Hyde Street, I suppose. If he made it into our lives, you never know.
Got to see Santa's better half, though.
Yeah.
We all know who's really doing the work to get all those presents ready.
We do. And if you've ever seen the Christmas Chronicles, that's true. She built the whole village.
It was all designed and planned by a woman. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We're really excited to have everybody back together today. And if you're listening to this on the day that it airs, which is December 25th, 2024, then we're really happy that we get to share Christmas with you. So thanks for hanging out. We're excited because we're talking about a Christmas comic book. For all intents and purposes, I think the most Christmassy Ghost Machine comic book that there probably has been.
When we were discussing this episode, I was like, we get a Christmas episode. But I was like, I don't think there are any Christmas related comics from Ghost Machine. And then we were graced with a Christmas comic.
For sure.
The Rocketfellers, number 2.
Number 2. Rocketfellers number 2. We're going to talk all about it. We are going to talk all about it. We're also in the middle of our nuclear winter event that's been going on the Instagram. We've been giving away Jeff Johns signed comic books. This was week 2. On the day that this one episodes, we're going to be announcing the winner of the week 2 giveaway, which is a Red Coat number 1 for 50 retailer incentive variant signed by Jeff Johns. And our first giveaway was a copy of Geiger number 1 that was signed by Jeff too. And so the day after this episode airs, December 26th, we're going to be announcing our 3rd week of that nuclear winter event. Keep the holiday spirit, that Yuletide glow going with a New Year's Eve giveaway. We're going to be giving away 1 more comic. So make sure to check that out. No matter what day you do it, as long as it's within a week of when this episode airs, there will be a pinned post on our Instagram giving you all the details. So yeah, Merry Christmas.
Santa.
All right. Santa. Well, Santa had a rough ride with it. I know that took a darker turn, but that's the way it is. If you haven't seen that Hyde Street number 3 cover, go out and check that out. That's what old Xavier Ray there was referring to. It's pretty serious what him and Pranky are doing to Santa Claus on that cover. It's a gorgeous cover by Yvonne. We did a reel about it on Instagram where we did a little cosplay set up to be similar to that cover, including the bloodied cleaver. So if that gives you any kind of a preview as to the state of Santa on the cover, then you'll know what to brace yourself for. But I'll leave you at that.
Do you think they were in cahoots with Krampus?
Maybe. There's potential there for sure.
Do you know what Krampus is?
Yeah, it's like the evil demon Santa in like Scandinavian culture that puts you in a bag and beats you up and stuff.
I really, really want to go to the Krampus parade that they have in some cities, where there's just like people dressing up as Krampus and pretending to carry children around in bags and beat them with sticks.
Now that you mention that, John Kalish, I could be saying that wrong. It could be like Kalish, the colorist on Hornsby and Halo, recently posted on his Instagram some pictures of a Christmas celebration in Salem, Massachusetts that he attended. And it was super cool. Like there were all these different people in like creepy Salem, Massachusetts-esque, like, scary attire and all that kind of stuff, including many a Krampus that were in there. So you should go check that out. If you haven't seen his Instagram in general, you should check it out. He's a very talented colorist. He's really cool.
I will.
Speaking of talented people that we're getting to know better every day, we have a shout out as usual. This is going to go to 2 folks, 1 new friend and somebody that we've known fondly for a little while. First one is DG_collects. I'm going to spell that for you. It's D as in dog, E as in elephant, E as in elephant, G as in George, EE_ the word collects on Instagram. And that account sent us a super cool Junkyard Joe Mezco figure toy photography collaboration recently. And that was very generous of them. It was super cool. We were happy to accept. And it also was one of the things that we featured on one of our recent Ghost Machine Fan Friday posts. Also, we heard from the folks at Stand Up Comics, who we know and love. They're well known for sending us several cool stands that we've used in our videos and giveaways. They also collaborated in the creation of our Rook Exodus helmet that we've used in multiple videos on the Instagram too. And recently they put out a new really cool, it's really neat. It's a Geiger stand, but then like right next to it, there's this actual road sign with the radioactive symbol on it, like in dirt. So it's like very realistic, and you like would put your slabbed, beautiful Geiger comic with it right next to something like that. So make sure to check out Stand It Up Comics. They make comic book stands and lots of other interesting 3D printed stuff for collecting on Instagram.
Stand it up.
Anything Stand It Up ever does from now on, they gotta get Snoggle in there to say that at the end. And then like plus 10 follows a day. Like or whatever.
That's like on my card with my special abilities. Plus 10 followers.
When you say that.
Yeah.
That's the activation phrase.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh my gosh, I have to get out of your way because you're in the newsroom, aren't you?
I am. It's time for some news. So, solicits are out for Redcoat Volume 1, TPB. Very exciting there. Geiger number 12, which has a top secret cover reveal coming January 8th. And Hyde Street number 3. Very exciting. There are also 4 Ghost Machine issues coming out in 12/26, day after Christmas. Just in time. You get all your Christmas money, your Christmas gift cards, and you skedaddle straight to your local comic book shop to support local business, and you go buy those comics for yourself for Christmas. Merry Christmas to me. Treat yourself. We posted a reel about those on our Instagram. Very wonderfully musically themed. Great job, Nick Wilson. Coming out on 12/26, it's Geiger number 9, Redcoat number 8, Hornsby and Halo number 2, and the second printing of Rocketfellers number 1. That's about it for the news. And it's a pretty exciting news because, Christmas Day, you get to unwrap all your gifts, and then you take your Christmas money, your winnings, and you go get yourself some comic books.
Get on out there and let's take a look at these 3 sweet covers that are
so good
for Rocketfellers number 2, which it is for sure a Christmas issue all around. Rock and roll, rocking around the Christmas tree, man.
This the A cover. I'm gonna tell you some music I hear when I see this cover. It's like Run, Run, Rudolph. That one.
Yeah. That's fun. Have you ever thought about?
Do you know that song is called Run, Rudolph, Run? But the lyrics are Run, Run, Rudolph.
That's wild. It's like
crazy.
The multiverse just opened up in front of me. So it does make you think in a book like this. It's great if you could just have a soundtrack that just like really did play on cue for certain things, like or whatever. So especially Christmas time of year. So what's that cover A? And you're saying that's the cover that made you think of Run Run Rudolph, right? The one with them holding the Christmas tree?
Yeah, it also kind of, whatever that song is that's playing at the beginning of Christmas Vacation. It's a Christmas Vacation. It's actually the theme song to the Christmas Vacation movie. Because they go and they get the Christmas tree and it's a fiasco and it's bad. That's what's playing on that cover. Later during the book is when Rum Rum Rudolph plays. We will put a pause in that, and when we talk about the book, I'll tell you when that song plays.
I understand. So this A cover was by Francis Manapul, and in this case, this whole book as well, when we say by Francis Manapul, that means pencils, inks, and colors. The man did it all, right? And he co-wrote it with Peter Tomasi. Also, the letters were by Mr. Rob Leigh. And that particular cover is all by Francis. So how about the B cover? Have you seen that one?
The one that Gary Frank did?
Yep, that's the one.
That B cover is fantastic. I like that. It is
pretty neat.
Grandma was there.
So, Ghost Machine fans, we're talking about the B cover, which is drawn and inked by Gary Frank with colors by Brad Anderson. And this one is them wearing the same suits that they're wearing in the A cover. However, there's no Christmas context. And also, Grandma is pictured with them. So this, whenever it takes place it takes, I mean, it's just a cover, so you don't necessarily have to, the head doesn't have to have been from a moment in time, but it is kind of neat. Like, oh yeah, there's grandma, you know, she's in that one. So that's kind of a like nice little nugget to me that it's included. And it's funny the way that Roland is holding the dog in his like palm. I like that, but just Gary's art's amazing. So it reminds me of some kind of like pulpy science fiction, you know, Travelers of the Unknown or like some kind of thing, but I don't know. I like it. There is one other cover, and you said you like this because something about the character looks like a bug? The evil character?
The evil lady looks like a bug.
Yeah, and this third cover is by a new person stepping onto the scene.
Right?
Yeah, Scott Hepburn. It looks like did the pencils and inks, and Francis still colored it, which actually makes a lot of sense because I was like, at first, I really thought Francis did that because the color scheme, I believe, is identical to when he's done that. And it looks like Scott Hepburn has done a variety of Marvel and Dark Horse comics. Yeah. He's a cover artist for one of the copies of this new Brood comic that is written by Patton Oswalt, co-wrote by Patton Oswalt. So that's neat. Hello, Scott. Welcome to the party, Scott. Way to go. I like how the dog's front and center on that one with his giant tongue wagging out like that. But, you know,
evil bug lord.
When you mention it, the character, the person who's hunting them, and I want to talk about that person's name in a little bit. I don't want to name them right now. She does look kind of like an alien, more like in this, and less cybernetic-y. So that is kind of like a cool artistic twist on it from Mr. Scott Hepburn. So, all right. Well, thanks, Scott. So what do we have to do now? Because if you haven't read this comic book, there's an emergency.
We need to stop right now if you haven't read this comic and go to your local comic book place. The road should be clear. The sky should be clear as well. No reindeer in sight since it will be the 25th when this episode comes out. We're going to literally spoil everything. So if you haven't read it, make sure you purchase it and start reading it promptly, and we will be here when you get done.
We will wait for you patiently in the Christmas spirit, sipping eggnog by the fire. Yuletide magic will preserve us all. So read this comic. It's really cool. This isn't the kind of thing where you want to hear us talk about it without having the context at all. So that means we'll have to let the Christmas magic with Rocketfellers number 2 begin. Awesome. So Francis, again, is doing pencils, inks, and colors, like we said. And Peter, as we've mentioned before, is known for, just so many different books, but I really loved his Green Lantern Corps run. His Batman stuff was excellent, especially when related to a family environment. And I think that's really showing in this book because I'm really liking it. I'm liking it a lot. But we're not going to talk about the family to start, are we? We're going to talk about the antagonist.
Evil bug lady.
Yeah, now that I saw that Hepburn cover, it's got me
just the eyes.
Wondering. Yeah, it's just.
But I think the eyes look like especially evil. They're for scanning.
Yeah, they are for scanning.
I dig it. She looks. I say she.
She is a she because Francis said, unless this is not the villain he was talking about, I'm pretty sure this is who he's talking about. It's not. Then there's an even cooler one. But he said they have the coolest female villain and the coolest weapon. And they have not explained what that weapon she's been carrying around yet does. And I've been wondering that a little bit. We don't really know, so we can't talk about it. But I wonder if when he said the coolest weapon, it was that. Or if it's like that eyeball in the jar. or something. Who knows what he might have meant by that, but we'll find out.
We
Right.
open with her and
Yep.
she's still, searching, but doing a status update. It feels like, yeah, she's a villain, but she's just kind of a pawn.
And the most significant reason that I felt that way is so she's looking around at the remnants of where the family was, and whoever is on the other side of her lenses is able to scan the area for temporal evidence somehow. And then the nun is found, and then this character is like, yeah, they're lost. I'm gonna go find them. But then the person on the other end, to your point, is like, proceed at your own discretion, and we expect updates. So it's not like the person on the other end is scanning and is like their guy in the chair or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is like their like boss or the company they work for, which I believe we are going to learn is called Cronax, and that's something that we want to talk about too. But we can wait until the word Cronax actually comes up, because then I can dive into that. So, but either way, it does look as though she doesn't know where they are, and she like grabs a piece of the debris and does this thing where she literally says,
continuum penetration across all 4 realities. Continue searching within parameter box along designated latitude and longitude lines.
and so we get this amazing 2-page splash page. We have discussed this at length on a post on the Instagram and like lots of discussion points. And so we brought it up. We even had a funny video where like Bruce dressed up like Pranky for it and stuff like that. On this splash page, like the page shows, she says across all 4 realities. And so that's a cool one.
Yeah, I
And
think it's super neat.
so who
What
can
an
you
amazing
name
splash
on
page.
here? Who can you name on here?
Frankie, Miss Goodbody, Geiger, Junkyard Joe. We got Redcoat. We got that president. I think her name's Sarah. Is it Sarah?
It's Sarah Nash. Yes.
I knew it. Hornsby and Halo in their destructive forms. Oh, yeah. No, they're battling someone else. I don't know who that purple dude is. And Rook.
And Rook. And so that's 8 different.
And Barney.
And Barney, yeah, of course. And that's 8 different titles. And the reason it's 4 different realities is some of those titles overlap, like in the world of the Unnamed or Devour and Hyde Street or one universe. And there's 2 pictures there. Rocketfellers doesn't have its own picture because this character is in the Rocketfellers. And so the only one that has not appeared yet in a comic, other than in a bio page in Ghost Machine #1, is President Sarah Nash. And we know that she's going to appear in First Ghost because Ghost Machine #1 bio for her says that her first appearance will be in First Ghost #1.
But is this technically her first appearance?
No, this wouldn't. No.
I just don't know, like,
No, it's what this will be considered is like a cameo, but honestly, she has a full page spread in Ghost Machine #1. But I would say that collectors will probably say that her first full appearance is when she's like actually able to be seen close up and or has dialogue or is on more than one page. But yeah, sure, this would be a cameo. Either way, it's just such a sweet, it's amazing. And it's cool because it's not one artist. All different artists contributed to it. So it really represents that aspect of Ghost Machine as well.
Once we like exit this amazing splash page, which is like just should be in all types of poster forms, I have something funny to say about that little floating eye. So, like, for some reason, the first time I saw it, I thought it was like a brain.
I did too.
Did you really? Okay. And like the part that was hair, I was like, maybe it's like futuristic, like turning into an actual creature, and that's like the beginning of, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I just didn't look at it that closely. And then when Rob and I looked at it, because Rob joined me for the Rocketfellers #1 episode when you were super sick,
Mm-hmm.
he pointed out that it looked as though it had eyelashes. And then he said he wasn't sure. And then I jumped on the bandwagon of like, no, it's an eye. It is an eye. Absolutely. Like I can see those eyelashes. If they're not eyelashes, and they end up being something else, I would feel almost deceived at this point, for that or whatever.
Yeah. I do think it's very interesting that he's been hiding out in the basement, basically, like tinkering with all of his. What's the guy's name from Honey I Shrunk the Kid?
Rick,
McManus.
Rick Moranis?
Rick Moranis, where he's just like kind of hunkered down in his little lair. But he is keeping track.
He's marking them off to the current day. That's the point. The point of it is it shows that he didn't mark off the 23rd, but it's the 24th because he's been obsessively working so much that he neglected to account for a day, and he doesn't even realize it's the morning. And that's why she comes and gets him, and she's like, "You gotta get out of here. You've been working too hard." That's also when, though, like you said, we learn that they're now going to unpack. And so when they have that brief line for her where she says unpacking the entire time pod for the first time, organizing all this stuff, you realize, oh, wow, like they really were hoping like temporary type of deal, which
Mm-hmm.
explains the tone of his conversation with his brother at the end of the first one or whatever, kind of, too.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets fun. It gets fun right away, and that's what we need because it's Christmas time. And the reason she's dragging him up the stairs to make him realize that he neglected to mark off the right day on the calendar is because it's Christmas Eve and they still don't have a what?
A tree.
How is that possible, man?
They don't have a tree at all. I do think it's cute that they're, like any family around Christmas time, we remember people who we've lost, and they're having some pretty fond memories about grandma and how her rule was like, you have to eat at least one snowflake.
Yes. And I thought that was interesting because typically in the comic book world, which is a sentence I feel like I should never say when I'm talking about a Ghost Machine comic book. So you don't find a tragedy that heavy revisited that soon, unless it's like the death of a major character and how it rattled the universe. It's not like, oh wow, they're reminiscing about grandma like pages essentially if you connect the two issues after she died, after the permanence of that set in. And that is really cool because it does help us this book, even though she's not alive anymore, she's featured in it, and it helps us get a sense of the family's values as well by how they did actually, as they say, follow her rules. Because when they're all letting the snowflake hit their tongue, they all together say, always follow grandma's rules. Because they're
Yeah,
still,
it's super cute.
and it's
Even
positive.
the
Like, you
dog,
don't,
like, hung out.
yeah. I think the dog's hyper intelligent. I think the dog is like a super advanced guard dog. But that's
Of
a
course.
conversation for
But
another
then we get
time.
the pleasure of meeting this dude.
Green vest.
Green vest, no sleeves. It's not cold outside, bruh. I got even his gloves have holes on his knuckles and his fingers are out. That's how cool he is.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
So you're talking about the guy that's at the Christmas tree lot that they all go to because they need to get a Christmas tree on the day before Christmas, and they're going to get a real tree, right?
A real tree.
All right. And there's this guy with the green vest, and he's kind of a jerk. And the way that his mannerisms are depicted, I would say, make me feel like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling like this guy's going to be a jerk. At first, the stuff you said, but also like he's got the toothpick and he's working on something, and he looks kind of like he's a gangly guy, and you don't want to trust that guy. And it's still just a Christmas tree lot, though, right? And so they just kind of get this weird, ominous tone, in my opinion, that then they find this tree and it's like the best tree that they can find is still like not even that great. It's bent a little bit or whatever. And then
Yeah.
he upcharges them for it. And then I have a question for you. So Roland says, all right, we'll take it. And then there's a panel, which is at the end of a page, right? Like, this is significant because when Francis and Peter are deciding where to put the panel of the guy with the chainsaw, right? Ghost Machine fans, we're talking about Roland says, all right, we'll take it. And then the creepo with the green vest pulls out a chainsaw. And there's this super dramatic, like, I don't know what the term for it is, but like there's red movement behind him, like, something's going to happen. And
You're supposed to feel the sound.
Okay, I do feel the sound. It's felt, and you can tell like he is. It looks as though he's like going to cut the tree down, and that is what he's doing because you can kind of see it there. But like when I saw that panel, which because you can't see what happens on the next page, and there's all this build up to like, why is this guy so evil? I thought he was gonna like turn and try to decapitate one of them, and he was like a time cop guy undercover or like something, right? And they really set me up for it with that panel being the last one on that page before I flipped it. And then no, it's in fact that the little Ray is gonna tackle the guy because we get another neat world building detail. But even then she's like, no, and you think, oh my gosh, is he really, he's like going after Ray with a chainsaw? And then oh no, she's actually diving at him, tackling him over into the snow and saying that he's not allowed, it's against the law to cut down trees. And so what does finding that out tell us?
That the timeline they are from, obviously the timeline they're from, the Lorax has won. It is ruled by the Lorax, who speaks for the trees. No, I'm assuming that you can't cut them down because they are drastically needed for, environmental purposes.
That's my assumption too, and we'll revisit that when we have the scene later with Grandma and Ray in the dirt. And I agree. It to me indicates, we don't really know the state of the world there. I don't believe. And it does indicate that, that organic stuff is probably a rarity or, whatever. And that's why you can't hurt the trees because you need the trees to make clean air or whatever the reason is, but we'll find out. So ultimately, they bail on it because she tackles the guy, though she still takes the baby birds who lost their mommy. And they're like all on their own and they're stranded and she's going to take care of them. And I don't know what that means, but I feel like it's a metaphor or a foreshadow or a something or just even a parallel to them also being lost in time or whatever and cut off. But I just thought it was significant that Ray rescues these two baby birds in a nest, and then Creepo guy says that a squirrel killed their mom, and so Ray decides to take care of them.
You find it weird when they're leaving. He says, "Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year," and the tree guy says it's looking merrier already. Why am I reading into like every character's? I'm like, it feels unnecessarily ominous. It's merrier already. Is it because they're leaving? He's like, ugh, these people. Probably.
I see what you're saying there. And there's a lot of that. Like, I think Peter is good at that. I'd like to ask Mr. Tomasi about that one day, perhaps.
He's making us like trust no one. Anyone be out to get the Rocketfellers. And I like it. I like the vibe. You never know. That's why when he did the chainsaw thing, it creates this like emotion as you're turning the page of like, oh, was that person going to get him? Is this person? It's fun. Creates suspense.
It is super fun. I think, I want to make it a cop out and say it's just because they're leaving, but that fact that Merrier is in bold makes me wonder if there's
What I'm
something more
saying.
to it. Yeah.
It's getting
But
merrier already.
in briefly, it's neat and ironic. Roland goes to the tree that the one guy started cutting down and he puts some stuff on it to heal it and repair it. And then they all get back in their big VW van, the Little Miss Sunshine van that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, we're just not going to have a tree this year. And Roland's like, no, don't worry. I have a plan. And we'll talk about that plan in a second. But we have another ominous moment we must we needed to talk about.
Mr. Martinez, he's
The
always snooping.
creepiest. Well, keep in mind that if we understand it, and we've been told that there's some flexibility in this regard, and that's cool. We get it. It was a preview book, but if we understand the events in Ghost Machine #1, when we saw Mr. Martinez as the guy that was following them to give Roland his wallet back, I believe those events happened after this. But why do you say that he's a creepo? Why do you say that?
Well, one, he's like, hey, you guys gonna be around? Like, it's almost like, why are you still here? I'm getting everybody else's mail because they're in the tropics and you guys are just here. And it's emboldened in some of the things that he says, like always looking to be neighborly. He says that creepy like, and then just the yep, Merry Christmas, and puts the flag down on their mailbox. Like, it's just little small things that make me think that he's actually a nefarious character.
For context, Ghost Machine fans, Richie's checking the mail to the front of the house. Other characters in the background, like Grandpa's in the garage lifting weights, like the family's in there. Mr. Martinez comes up and he's who's chatting with Richie about the mail with this long, elaborate thing that like people that are predators or con people or whatever, usually they have an elaborate thing or whatever that, and it's what he seems like to me. It's just, I don't know. It would be funny if like nothing ever happened to this guy. It's just a strange thing the way that this guy communicates. He even is like, I'll even be around for a supermarket run if you need it. So it's like either you're a creepo and like evil as heck, or part of the time police people or undercover, whatever, or you're like really in need of a friend or something like, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess we'll find out. But the thing that made me feel wonky about it is that Richie leaves the flag up and Mr. Martinez puts it down and says, yep, Merry Christmas when he goes back in the house. And I know you said that, but that is just like the specific moment. Like up until that point, I was like, okay, he could be just really nice, but that is just too like, it was almost like this robotic move. Like he has to make sure everything's in its place. He has to make sure everybody has the assistance they need. I don't know. Weird. So we'll move on from Mr. Martinez for now. And then we get another one of those cool, like I like this trend of how Peter and Francis communicate when the whole family's doing their thing and they kind of remind us, right? Like we get this montage deal on a page with Roland working in his basement on something. Richie's on the computer doing something, and we do learn something new about what Richie does on the computer in this issue, which is interesting. And then Rachel's getting ready to do something off the roof that's crazy, which is cool. And then Grandpa and Ray are getting ready to go out in the backyard and dig deep to find some worms to feed her new birdies. Then what do we actually find out that Roland was doing in that basement?
He was making a tree. I'm so sorry. I turned the next page and you kind of find out what they're all doing. Like he's trying to take a piece of the tree and give it life. It looks like the son is doing some sort of insider trading.
Well, what does the son say specifically? So the Roland says, "Give my tree life," and then it's super kind of fun, like mad scientist-y. and he's got this futuristic deal that's zapping some sort of organic matter.
The only music I hear playing there is like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids music. For our younger listeners, there is a classic movie
long ago
made me feel very different about ants.
Oh, right.
He's hacking something, and
that's the thing.
Even more than the last one, Rex.
Mm-hmm. It says will get me even more, and so he's not even like trade stock or trading. He's doing some sort of like hacking theft, and like we get a little bit more information as we go. And then Rachel's decorating. What's fun? I love this. You know, she's decorating the roof, but really it seems like she's more interested in what she gets to do by being on the roof when she's done. And then we do get the prelude to learning more about Ray's relationship with her recently deceased grandma by seeing the conversation continue to evolve between Grandpa and her as they go start digging for the worms.
Mm-hmm. And then we turn to the next page. And again, I like the storytelling where you can see it's kind of all happening at the same time, but they're doing their different things. You've got Christmas traditions saved. Like, yes, I've created life from this little branch of tree. And then you've got Richie, and we're in because he's able to actually, hack into whatever he was trying to hack into. And the dog is like actually on his shoulder investigating the whole thing. You got Rachel flipping off the roof, which I love. And then you got Grandpa and Ray in the forest, and says it makes him happy to know that she wants to name one of the birdies after Rosie. Nope. Oh, and then, by the way, when we turn the page, we get Mr. Rockefeller himself saying, I'm talking to an I. Rachel's right. I need some sleep.
Yep. He says it. He does. So we do know that is definitively an I. And, the whole thing about him being able to grow the tree out of the small amount of matter makes me wonder if something that I believe Rob said on the last episode about how it could have to do with genetics or genetic manipulation or whatever, that they can grow something from something really small. Maybe for some reason, whatever he's got starts at an eye. I still want to hold on to it. Could be for a retinal scanner somewhere, and it's a heist that I like better. But I don't think the more this evolves, I don't think I'm right about that. But we'll see. We will find out.
What do you think the son's transferring?
Money. I think he's stealing money because he's made a point about how he's not rich. And if he was rich, he'd have a bigger pool.
Yeah, maybe it is money. There's also like a part of that thought he might be stealing information too. But I mean,
maybe. Totally. It just says transfer. All it says is transfer. That could be a data transfer. That could be a financial transfer. There is no reason whatsoever to assume it's just money. My only reason for thinking it was money is I remembered how he was sitting in his pool and telling somebody how he was not a Rockefeller. He was a Rocketfeller. And if he was a Rockefeller, he'd have a bigger pool and a bigger house. So it just made me think that he was of that mind. But we know he's techie in general. It certainly may not be money, but I think we'll find out. A big part of what they're supposed to be doing is not doing anything that attracts attention, because everything that the whole world that they're living in has happened already. So that means I don't know anything about these people, but the way that I imagine it with the hints we've been given is that if they make an anomaly occur at all, that if it's big enough, it'll blip and they can find them. And so if he does things that, like if he steals a few $1,000,000, the butterfly effect or whatever of that, like I could see what the reason they're spending this much time on what he's doing being pretty significant to like, well, something's going to happen because of what he's doing. And he's definitely going to get found because he said the words, like you said, don't worry, Rex, I've covered my tracks. As soon as I read that, I was like, oh, somebody's finding him and somebody's catching him. You know?
Oops. Little does he know, he will be found.
What did you think about the flashback with Rose and Ray and how there's, the emphasis on the green?
I just think it's really sweet. I don't know. She came from a different time than obviously her family when they're in the future. So she's trying to teach her kid like how to respect the nature and the balance of life that's around her. Or like, I guess her grandkid, really. But it's obvious that they were very close.
It shows us that they were very close. And the way that it is presented, and Ghost Machine fans were talking about this flashback that is presumably in the 25th century between Rose and Ray, where she's explained to her like dirt and how trees are all connected and things of that nature. And it is colored in a very arid way. And like so one would
very hot.
Like it's very hot and like there's not a lot of green. If this was something that was going to talk about protecting nature so much to emphasize the point of like nature is fruitful here and that's why we protect it, then we would have a lot more green on this page, in my opinion. And the fact that it's presented this way to me, even though sure, I guess it could just be a really sunny day, but I feel like Francis did this because he's saying like, look how dry this place is. They're saying you need to protect the green because like the closest thing they got to it is some cabbage that's like greenish gray. And I'm going to draw it in the background. You're not going to see a forest here. And so I think it just speaks to I want to know more. I want to know the state of that world. And I really want to know, we'll talk about it because of Roland's bio and something mentioned later, but I want to know what's going on over there. So you do get that serious stuff. They dip into that. It is cool that Rose gets some more screen time, as they say. And then they have their Christmas and all that stuff. Or they have their Christmas Eve, right? And they're going to go to bed for Christmas Day. And then we just have an absolute disaster occur. Were you expecting something to happen with the tree?
No, actually. But I don't really understand one thing. So we flash to this page, right? Where it's like, I do believe my new experiment worked pretty good. Like he is patting himself on the back. So now that I'm like rereading again, yes, it's probably some subtle foreshadowing going on there. Like, I did such a great job. Anytime we pat ourselves on the back a little bit too hard, you're probably going to have some like haha moments later. But I don't understand. So he says the grandpa said it even smells good like a real tree. And then Roland says it is a real tree. And he really emphasizes on is, And I think Rachel says, and speaking of smells, I think, and Ray goes, Santa's cookies are done. And then I can't tell who says, how long you guys gonna keep?
We're talking about where the family is sitting in the living room and Richie makes a comment to the parents about how long are they going to keep up a Christmas tradition that he says that he doesn't want to keep up, basically. And so what I want to point out about that has nothing to do with the context of that particular thing. And it's that moment where Richie then goes and endorses that tradition, like mom and dad want him to, is a very Tomasi moment. And that's because like that is very purely in there for character development and relationship and to give us a window into the nature of a relationship. And that will be reflected, I would say, in future interactions between those siblings, that he'll do a lot of he'll always do the right thing for her in the end, begrudgingly, without her knowing. I'm guessing. I just
I
think.
would agree. After that scene, we flip to the next page and everyone's like, you just see a picture of the house and you see a red glow. And that's when you should know, like, something is amiss.
Yeah. And so you're talking about when they're basically go to bed for the night, pre-Christmas, Christmas Eve. You get this really creepy red glow, but at first I'm like, it's just a tree. Why is it all red? But okay, I'll take it. And then, like the Santa cookies, somebody ate those. And then it's just hilarious to me. I really did not. When I asked you if you saw it coming, I didn't have an agenda. I
Well, I
did
think
not.
it's kind of funny that he's sleeping. Roland sleeps with his goggles on his forehead.
Yeah, that's true. You never know when you might need them. This is a pretty good example of that.
Yes, it is. Because the tree essentially in its own way comes to life.
Yeah, and it does help him come to that realization by putting his goggles on, which are conveniently located on his forehead. And he
I like
uses
the
them.
hilarity that Ray comes around the corner and is like, Santa's here.
Yeah, she's always so positive. It's awesome. Yeah. Look how big and pretty our tree is. Yeah. And so Ghost Machine fans, the tree's going through the whole house. It's pretty wild. It's reminiscent of that one Redcoat issue where the Johnny Appleseed went through Benedict Arnold's house. Kind of. It made me think of that.
Yeah, no, what I find pretty hysterical is trying to get it out of the house. And as they redirect it through the door, I do think Richie gets his powered boots on that make it so they can fly it away from their home so it doesn't completely destroy it. But Mr. Martinez, their creepy neighbor, it's like this whole thing is happening right behind him as he's going pee in the middle of the night.
This moment made me think more like he's Wilson in Home Improvement. Like he's just a charming side character that's always going to be there, and it'll be funny. And like maybe the gag will be that Mr. Martinez truly is just like a lawful good paladin, and just wants to like do all the best things at all times and be super duper helpful. And he always almost misses them, right? But never actually sees them, because what happens is the crazy stuff happens right behind his window in the bathroom while he's getting up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
I don't agree with you. I think he was also sent from their same timeline to watch them to make sure they don't break the time, whatever. But we'll get into that later. I think he's in cahoots with Roland's brother somehow, some way.
If you're right, then scenes like him doing this in the middle of the night make me wonder,
It's still allowed to have some hilarity.
It's funny. It's just funny.
Yeah, like it's happening right behind him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's funny, and it sets it up well because then the tree is flying, and the tree's flying because Richie's holding it on the bottom with his rocket boots on, and he's doing it to get it out of the house, but then he hops off of the tree and lets the tree essentially just like go, and it has this like what looks like cybernetic-y technology, whatever's roots and trunk,
yeah,
or I guess mostly roots, yeah. And it kind of like it ambles over there, and you have these great two WHOOMs from Rob Leigh, which represent the tree, essentially this Christmas tree taking a couple of steps, and this tree is still lit, by the way, but you can't see like why it's still lit. So there is an element of whatever he did scientifically made this tree glow, or it does have lights on it and it's retaining power somehow, and it's using that power to actually power the lights on it. And it appears that it goes and it finds a spot and plants itself there among the other trees, which is what Rachel says. She's like, it looks even more beautiful.
Well, and then it's like Grandma always said to protect the green, and the green would protect us. And that tree is not very conspicuous. Just gonna say.
Oh, it's huge.
Much larger than the other trees.
Oh yeah. So you've got super mutant tree in the middle of nowhere, flying through the air, and then planting itself in a suburban whatever area near one. You've got a kid who's either stealing money or stealing data and having to cover his tracks. Like these are not lay low in the time stream activities, people. They're not. They're not. These are foolish mistakes that are being made. But I was so excited to see that I think that this is the beginning of us having an understanding of why we saw an artificial intelligence projection or whatever of Rose in the original preview in Ghost Machine #1, because Richie flies away to grab something out of that mailbox. So, Ghost Machine fans, we have a quick question for you. We have 2 examples now of when they have mail that the mail person has put the flag up for them to pick that mail up. Because the first time was Mr. Martinez put the flag back down after Richie got the mail. And this time the flag is up so that Richie knows to get the mail. And I'm wondering, I don't think Peter Tomasi is Canadian. And I know this book takes place in the US, but I'm just wondering, my whole life, if the flag was put up, it was only if you had something that the mail person had to take. It was never for the mail person to let you know you had mail. That would kind of be like code for thieves to take your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just up when it's like, yo, mailman or woman, mail person.
Mail people. Yeah.
Come get my mail. My flag is up.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, anyways, we'll find out. If we
That's
may or may not.
probably why when he put the flag down, in my brain, I was like, ominous.
Right, like, what do you mean? I thought that like at first it was Richie has something the mailman needs to get.
Yeah, that Richie was trying to mail.
Yeah, but no. But last panel is him giving them, for now, what just looks like some sort of virtual picture of Rose, and I'm just wondering,
a little cube.
Yeah.
It says for all of us, and it's adorable. What a beautiful Christmas ending. Turn the page horror. Bug eyes.
Yes. So now we go back to our antagonist. And this page takes place in the 25th century, right? This takes place in 2425. What did you get of what was going on here?
All I can say is whatever matter makes up the body that is our villainous, it's deteriorating somehow, some way. Cytotoxic T cells are ineffective in being eradicated. So like something within her body, like she has to infuse herself with different kind of cells to keep her body going. That is what I think is happening. And it's probably why, to a degree, maybe that she's after them, because he's got that eye, and all this technology where he was like regenerating things and making things come from nothing.
Definitely. Yeah. There's a connection there. Maybe her condition is common to humanity and Roland has the key to fixing it. And that's why they're pursuing him. But there's a reason they can't get that technology. I don't know. But what I do like about this page, the very last page of this book, Ghost Machine fans, is that you don't necessarily have, like, there's a lot of terms in here that I want to Google so that I can have a better understanding. But I do not need to Google anything to understand that there's some sort of medical analysis that the technology is doing to her that is resulting in her finding out bad news. And as a result of that bad news, she needs to up the dosage or the whatever that she does in this chair. And then when she sits in this chair, we see it raising her mask off of her, and that's also when we realize, like, whatever's under there, like that's not her hair either. Like it looks like there's just burnt flesh or stripped flesh under there, or it could be technology. You can't really tell. But pretty much the only organic parts of her that you can see are like this weird looking face under a shadow and the two hands and forearms. And the rest of her looks to be all technology. I don't know. It makes me wonder. But I want to talk a little bit more about her because of something that is mentioned in Roland's biography. And did you get a chance to glance at that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it gives us one really big detail, right? It says the Roland knows the secret that holds the fate of mankind. And that is why he had to go into the time zone protection program facilitated by his brother.
And Kronex knew that he had discovered a secret that holds the fate of humanity in his hands. So Kronex found out and a manhunt ensued.
Here is where we need to speak about tenses. Because earlier in the bio, it says, but he chose the ever-evolving science of bioengineering, working for the conglomerate known as Kronex. Then, later in the bio, it's what you said, when Kronex learned of this, a manhunt ensued. Also, in Rocketfellers #1, when they're running away, in the beginning, before they time jump, they mention that it's Kronex. But it is entirely possible that they're referring to like the group of people that was pursuing them, and not necessarily that Kronex was the name of the villain. It's a small detail, but we're really into this. We like this. This is a sweet comic book. So what I'm getting at is Kronex. I'm confused because even at the bottom then it says, but the relentless Kronex remains in hot pursuit. So it's like, it seems as though Kronex is the name of the antagonist, but it's also the name of the conglomerate, so maybe it's not. And in Ghost Machine #1...
Well, two things can be true at the same time, even if they seem contradictory.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that she's called Kronex and she works for Kronex,
or she, like, is Kronex. She's bioengineered evil lady with bug eyes.
Yeah.
But we know about her right now, so, like, they may not know what her, like, villainous name is, but she is Kronex to them.
Well, in Ghost Machine #1, when they're being pursued by who ends up being Mr. Martinez, Rachel refers to whoever could be coming after them as Vertex. So I'm just very curious if Kronex is the conglomerate, but then later this woman is named Vertex. But if not, there's somebody out there named Vertex that Rachel thought it could have been that was pursuing them. So a great holiday issue. It was nice to see so much Christmas stuff in a comic book right at Christmas time. And I'm loving this series. Are you liking it? What are your impressions before we move on to listener mail? You weren't here for issue #1.
I like it. I like we don't know 100% everything that's going on, and it creates a lot of fun intrigue and suspense going from issue to issue.
And I like the lightheartedness too. I like the humor that's peppered in. So we have a fantastic listener mail. Would you like to read it?
Yeah. Listener mail comes from Alex G, and it states, what is the deal with First Ghost? I love the opening line. I know it comes out next year. I think it will be written by Brad Meltzer. Is it part of the Unnamed? Is the Northerner not getting his own title? ? So I will say one thing that I do know is I believe it's part of the Unnamed. It's part of the Geiger universe, right? And Redcoat.
It is definitely, yeah.
On our handy dandy timeline.
Precisely. It indicates that First Ghost is part of the Unnamed timeline. Like the logo is there. Literally, there's a First Ghost logo. Similar to how there's a Northerner logo, which is why this is an interesting question and a good one. my understanding of it is that First Ghost is a series that will be written by Brad Meltzer. I believe when we spoke to Jeff recently, he said that they were going to announce the artist for it soon, but it has not been announced yet. So that's going to be pretty neat. And it is part of the world of the Unnamed. And my understanding is that it stars President Sarah Nash, who we were talking about earlier on that second page big spread where the evil villainess was scanning the different realities because she appeared that she was in there. But that's all we know about First Ghost. We have no other context to that, really. Like, it has not been explored or alluded to very much at all. So a lot of people are excited about that. It does come out next year, and it is going to be written by Brad Meltzer, who is awesome. If you don't know a lot about Mr. Meltzer, you should go check him out on all the things. He does really, really neat work nowadays with children's books where he highlights different historical figures and has a great way of communicating the achievements of those figures and their history to young people via these books. But he's also written many novels, like tons of New York Times bestsellers that are, awesome. And he's back in the day wrote Identity Crisis, which is a really awesome Justice League story that you should check out. If you've never read it, you gotta read it. It's really, really great. So yeah, my understanding is he's going to be writing First Ghost. It is part of the Unnamed. There's this other question on here, and so I'll give you context, Snoggle, so it's not just me answering
I
Alex
know.
G's question.
Are you talking about, is the Northerner not getting his own title?
Yeah. On the timeline, there's a Northerner logo, similar to there's a First Ghost logo. So one would think if there's a logo, then you get a series. Because why else would you need a logo?
But I think with not getting his own title, I think the one thing I would say is we got a lot of time with Ghost Machine. So even if that's in the works, it may not be in 2025.
Why not? Yeah, we don't know. But
it could be in 2026. It could be a one-off. Because on the timeline, doesn't it say like the beast is created or whatever?
The monster's on there too, and that happens around D-Day in Normandy, I believe. It's sometime in the 20th century. Yeah, something happens with the monster on there.
The monster is made.
The monster's made. Does it have a date?
1944.
Yeah, okay. Point being, nobody has ever confirmed that the Northerner is going to have his own title, but he's on there with his own logo. And in the most recently updated Ghost Machine character, like wallpaper montage thing that Gary Frank did with all the characters on it, they did an updated one at the New York Comic Con, which included a rather a big feature of the Northerner. Like it was cool. So like he's certainly on the horizon, and I still firmly believe that he's a time traveler. And as soon as we start to have time travel involved in this whole situation, at least in that one shared universe, it's going to be like a total shift. I would think, it's going to be big things. It's going to be big things, man. It's going to mean people can have like crossover events that are logical and make sense and stuff like that. So I'm excited for that. But hey, thanks for writing in, Alex G. If you want to give us any questions, comments, snide remarks, we welcome them all at ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. That's the best place to reach us. It's been a wonderful Christmas episode. I hope Mrs. Claus is doing all right. I'm sure that because Santa is a mythical creature of lore, he's going to be just fine too, right? Let's hope
it's
so.
Magic.
Yeah. And if not, it's like in the Tim Allen movie. Somebody else gets the card and the suit, and it's fine. Yeah. Mr. X-Ray's got to do what Mr. X-Ray's got to do. Well, you and I, we got to go open presents. We got to go do those things. We got to empty out our stockings. We got to drink the eggnog. We got to spoil our child. Well, we'll leave you with a happy holidays from all of us here at Ghost Machine Fans. Reflecting back on the year of doing this with you at this time makes just appreciate all of you so much who supported us, contacted us, shared our stuff, collaborated with us. Thank you so much, and we're excited for what 2025 holds for Ghost Machine. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Podcast.